The by-election stoush in Eden-Monaro is just a very public example of simmering tensions in the coalition. If the analysis piece by the Australian today, the paper's editor-at-large, Paul Kelly, is on the money. Now, knowing him as I do, I suspect there's a bit of truth in it, but these sorts of things never end well unless there's leadership from the top. And of course, the Prime Minister is himself in an unassailable position inside the party. Indeed, his government has picked up a lot of ground from voters for their handling of this crisis. So how is he going to navigate what Kelly feels is the warring approaches of the pro-market economic Liberals and the pro-government interventionist Conservatives as the economic work to deal with this virus now starts in earnest? The Australian's editor-at-large, Paul Kelly, joins me now from Sydney. Paul, before we get into some of those points you made about the broader economic debate inside the government, I've got to keep a straight face here because it's just high farce. What's your take on Eden-Monaro developments today?
Well, I think a high farce is the right description, Peter. I mean, what a shambles. And the two high-profile potential candidates have both been acting like overgrown schoolboys. So we had the New South Wales National Party leader, John Barilaro, indicating that he wanted to run, then changing his mind, blaming the federal National Party leader, Michael McCormack, saying that McCormack didn't support him, then saying that he wouldn't recognise McCormack's credentials as leader, which of course then went to the tensions inside the federal party about the leadership between McCormack and Barnaby Joyce. Then we had the Liberal Andrew Constance putting his name forward, then changing his mind. So I think provided neither of them changes their mind again, they're both out of the race. And I think the coalition's probably in a better position for them both to be out of the race, given the way they've performed over the course of the last couple of days.
Doesn't it make it easier for Labor? Because Labor have pre-selected someone. It looks like that person, Kirsty McBain, will stick as a candidate. She's got good credentials, certainly in and around her local area. And these two guys, you're right, look like schoolboys, picking their way through the spoils of perhaps a move to Canberra, completely and utterly focused on themselves.
Well, Labor will run a competent campaign. They normally do. But I think Labor's under quite a lot of pressure here. I mean, you would expect Labor to win because the government at by-elections simply doesn't win seats from the opposition. So if the Liberal Party, if the coalition doesn't win the seat, then that'll be no great loss as far as Scott Morrison's concerned. If it does win the seat, that will be a blow for Labor, a blow for Anthony Albanese, and a coup for Scott Morrison. And the interesting thing, of course, is well, who will the Liberal Party nominate?
It's such a huge missed opportunity
exactly.
Because there's 100 years of history against the government, but they were in the pole position and they had their pick of two strong candidates within the two parties of the coalition, and both of them now have crawled their pitch. So they'll have to go back with a relative unknown, I suspect, to run at the seat. Jim Molan's pulled out. Oh, I think it's an utter mess. I think it's an absolute utter mess. I want to go to the comments you wrote today in your article. There's a lot of analysis in that. Take us through that. You say that there's this contest inside the ideologies of the party, of the coalition. It's more than two parties there, but the coalition, the pro-market economic Liberals and the pro-government interventionist Conservatives. Take us through this.
Well, I think this is a really interesting battle of ideas, Peter, because it goes to the fundamental question, what is the main takeout for the Liberal Party from the virus and from the crisis surrounding the virus? Now, for Scott Morrison and Josh Frydenberg, the main takeout in the recovery phase is to have pro-growth, open market, pro-productivity policies. Josh Frydenberg was very upfront yesterday saying that the values and policies and methods the Liberal Party adopts in the recovery phase will be the same values and policies and methods that they've adopted in the past. And so this is basically about growth, it's about creating jobs, it's about liberal economics. But there is another school of thought, articulated particularly by people like Jim Molan, who's on the Conservative wing of the Liberal Party, and articulated in the recent book on the crisis just released by the Australian Institute for Strategic Policy. And what they're arguing is that things are fundamentally changed because of this crisis, and that this is too great an opportunity for the government and for the Liberal Party not to face up to what's involved. And this means confronting the reality that we need to see an expansion in the dimensions and ambit of the national security state. We need to have a more self-reliant and resilient country, and that means significant changes in both economic and strategic policy. We need to be more of a protectionist society, more of a protectionist policy when it comes to supply chains, and we need to have a wider definition of national security, which encompasses things not just defence policy and the normal traditional areas of national security, but IT, fuel, health, and so on. So I think this is a really interesting contest of ideas. It's not so much a power struggle in the government, but a contest of ideas. And I think what we'll see from Scott Morrison is an attempt to integrate both schools of thought.
Yes, I don't think it'll be an either-or proposition, because there's a lot of merit in both. One's obviously a historical relationship that the party has, the Liberal Party in particular, with free market economics, but there is a growing realisation that Australia has to stand on its own feet pretty much in terms of the economy and exports as never before after this crisis. Paul Kelly, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks, Peter.